So, good morning everyone. My name is Carl and I will be instructor for today. So today we are going to learn about the sense of design in mobile application part 1. So before we start with the designing and prototyping part, let us discuss about what is design in essence and what is a user interface. So what is a good UI? The user interface is a critical part of any software product. So when it's done well, users don't even notice it. When it's done poorly, users can't get past it to use efficiently the product. So in order to increase the chances of success when creating the user interface, most designers follow the interface design principles. And the design principles represent a high-level concept that are used to guide software design. So there's 4 golden rules of UI design principles. The first one is place user in control of the interaction. The second one is make it comfortable to interact with the product. Third one is reduce the cognitive load, and the fourth one is make sure the user interface is consistent. So let's discuss about further with the first point, which is place user in control of the interface. So you need to make the action reversible, like the one in Gmail where you can undo a conversation move into trash. So you need to also create a easy to use interface, provide informative feedback, and show the visibility of the system status, just like the Dropbox, which they show the minutes left until upload completed. So the next one is make it comfortable to interact with a product. You need to eliminate all elements that are not helping the users. Avoid jargons and system-oriented terms, which the system should speak the user's language with word, phrases, and concepts similar to the user instead of complicated phrases, and apply Fitts law to interactive element. The Fitts law stated that the time to acquire a target is a function of the distance to the size of the target. That means it's better to design a large target for important function, as big buttons are easier to interact with. The next one is design accessible interfaces. Use real-world metaphors and engineer your interface for error. So the next part is reduce the cognitive load. The cognitive load is the amount of mental processing power required to use a product. It's better to avoid making users think or work too hard to use your product. So the first one, you can chunk for sequence of information of action. You can reduce the number of action required to complete a task. Recognition over recall, where the designer can promote a recognition in user interface by making information and functionality visible and easy accessible. Visual aids such as tooltips and context-sensitive details also help with user support in recognizing information. The last one is promote the visual clarity. The last point is make user interface consistent. Consistency is an essential property of a good UI. Consistent design is intuitive design, and it's one of the strongest contributors to usability and learnability. The first point is visual consistency, which concern about the style of the interface. Avoid using different style for elements on different pages of the site. Users should not have to wonder whether a transform button like this means the same thing as the other button. So the second one is functional consistency, which is behavioral interaction. You need to follow the principle of least surprise when designing user interface to prevent user confusion. And lastly, you need to be consistent with the user's expectation. So now let's talk about the next topic, which is color. Color is used to improve the user experience as it is one of the essential art and design. You need to specify the primary and secondary theme of your application as well as the light and the dark theme. There's 3 principles of colors in application design. They are hierarchy, legible, and expression. So these are the 3 principles of colors in application design. The first one is hierarchy. As you can see, the main color is purple and is used for input form. When the result is found, the output posted with a white background, as it tends to bring more attention to user and it helps user concentrate on the result found. So the middle part is legible. So if the route direction is displaying other color, users are only able to follow the direction but confused on the color, as green, yellow, and red are more legitimate and reasonable. And the last one is expression. So take a look at the right button If the color of the red button is the same as the primary color, user will have a hard time finding the color as the color is all the same. So as shown in the picture above, the primary and secondary color must be related. For example, the primary color is blue and the secondary color is cyan. So if we insert other colors that is not categorized in the same color palette, it reduces the user experience as users feel uncomfortable when looking at the area with different colors. The second is an example which the background and surface as plain color and red as the area output. For the dark theme, black will be used as the background and surface it as white. White is also used as an area to let the user look at the pop-up. As mentioned on the previous slide, this is an example of the application as the top menu bar is using purple as main color and the raise button is using teal as secondary button. If you add up the yellow inside the marketing area, this is a don't as the content are in the same domain and may be confusing to user when they interact with the system. So the next one is one popular topic, which is dark mode. It is a new trend for mobile application as it reduces the eye constraint. It's also the programmer's favorite theme. Applications such as YouTube, Discord, Instagram has already have dark mode built in, and there's some plugin built especially for the developers. So this is an example of the light versus dark theme. Both of these applications have same legibility of the content and provide well visibility. In concept, it is changing primary and secondary color scheme. It might seem easy, but there's many things you need to take care when deciding to use light or dark theme. So how to pull off dark theme successfully for application design? First one is to avoid pure black. A dark theme doesn't have to be pure white text on a pure black background. In fact, the high contrast can be painful to look at. It is safer to use a dark gray as primary surface color for component. The next one is avoiding using saturated color on dark themes. Saturated color can look great on light surfaces, which can visually vibrate against dark surfaces, making them harder to read. So you need to desaturate the primary color in order to make the contrast enough against dark surfaces. Next one, you need to meet the accessibility color contrast standard. You need to ensure that your mobile content remains comfortably designed in dark mode. Dark theme surfaces must be dark enough to display the white text. So the next one is using on color for text. The on color are colors that appear on top of the component and key surfaces. They are typically used for text. Light text on dark background can appear more bold than dark on light. That's why you want to use a lighter font weight for dark mode. You also need to consider the emotional aspect of the design, because color actually perceived differently depending on their background. Next one is communicate depth. Elevation is a tool that we use to communicate the hierarchy of elements. In light mode, we use shadow to express the elevation. The same approach wouldn't work in dark theme, so it's better to illuminate the surface of each level. The higher the elevation, the lighter the surface. The last one is switchable light and dark mode so that you can cater to a wider array of audience. So why do we use dark mode? We use dark mode to achieve a strong dramatic look for striking visuals. It also can be used to project a feeling of style and elegance, luxury and prestige to the user. It helps create a sense of intrigue and mystery and helps user to focus on the content with minimal distraction. It also used to support the visual hierarchy and information structure. So crossing over to dark side should be performed with care. So when not to use dark mode? When your application contains a lot of text, as reading on a dark background is difficult. Or your application has a lot of mixed content on the screen, such as video, pictures, GIF, text, and etc. So in the case of B2B application, it also not using dark mode because there's a lot of forms, component, and widget in the application. And lastly, when the design calls for a wide range of color, as dark mode is not ideal for that situation. So More thorough research and analysis is recommended before making such potentially precarious decision that is fraught with pitfall. So once a designer go down that path, it's very difficult to turn back. Designer would be well advised to consider all aspects, the good and the bad, the do and don'ts, before jumping into dark mode on both feet. That's the end of part 1. Thanks.